Hello again, this is another vintage East German locomotive. In my last video we had a look at the model that you can see here, the G20 version, and we had two different liveries of that. This is the final one of this range, which is this one, the V180 in the maroon and yellow, and it's G19. These are diesel hydraulic locomotives from the Deutscher Reichsbahn, and they're modelled here by GUTZOLD or VEB. This box is looking pretty tired, but what's really interesting is at this end it says it was sold at some point in the UK by Victor's for just £4.07. Strange price, but quite an incredible price for this model. It goes to show how old this is, so let's get this out and we'll have a look. So here is the model, and it certainly looks really impressive. You might have just noticed there in the packaging that we had a plastic two-piece inner carton. The other two models that I've shown in the last video, well, they had polystyrene trays. So a slight difference there. This might be a slightly newer model. Anyway, let's have a look at this closer up. So this is a very similar model and similar setup to the previous two models we had a look at, but there is a lot of differences at the front here. This is a revised cab. It looks much more like maybe a warship that you see here in the UK. It's got this rounded edge to it, and it looks really quite mean and purposeful. It's got a lot of lights going on here. I hope those will be working lights, and we've got some silver surrounds around those lights. The red ones aren't operational, they're just painted red, and it looks like the main lights do actually operate. We've got some silver picked out here and there with the handrails. The number's very clear as well. Down below we've got the very typical buffer beam, and this one is fitted with the bendy buffers, which I really like. They're not likely to break. And the coupling hands out the front. It's very simple on this little piece of metal, and it's attached to the bogie. So the cab up here hasn't got any interior to it. You just see straight through to the motor. The glazing is pretty clear though, and we do have some additional painting, the cream on this, very similar to the previous one. And at the top there we have another light, which it looks as though it does illuminate. You can see a piece of plastic inside, which I think will transmit the light up to this point. Down the side of the body, it's very similar to the previous ones. It's got the same kind of grills and setup with the windows, and again the masking isn't too great on this. The paintwork is really letting it down a little bit, but it does have silver here on the handrails and the door handle and the top of the door. We also have a silver surround on these windows, and like the other one you can just see inside. I'm assuming it's the same kind of chassis. Single little motor in the middle and all-wheel drive and pickup. It does have these printing down here on the black part, and the number in Deutscher Reichsbahn is very clear there, although it is getting rubbed off a little bit over time. The worst of the masking is definitely at the top here between the cream and the red, where it's a bit scrappy here and there, but it does look like a pretty cool model and very similar to the other ones. But that's unsurprising on this class of locomotive. It's even got the same bogies down here as well. Underneath you can see it says GUTZOLD here as well, and I've talked about that before with the confusion and complications of it being either GUTZOLD or VEB, well then it turned into Pico. But this model certainly is showing its age, but I wonder whether it's going to run. Let's put this on the test track and we'll check it out. So here it is, it's just some old Hornby track, third radius curves. I don't have a big stage, so I don't have much of a run unfortunately, but it's enough to see whether this works. As usual, I'm using my old H&M controller and it's 12 volts DC, so let's give this some power and see what happens. Well, who needs DCC Sound when you've got models like this? It's so loud when it moves. But the great thing is it just works perfectly. It is an old vintage model, and yet it just crawls along really nicely and slow, and doesn't have any problems whatsoever. It feels like quite a heavy model, so let's get this on the scales and we'll check out how much it weighs. So this one comes in at 432 grams. So this V180 from GUTZOLD or VEB or early Pico, a bit confusing, is a great model I think. It's got the same kind of appeal as the ones I reviewed in the last video, so I'll leave a link to that video at the end of this one, you can check those out. And it has the same kind of setup inside. It's obviously been built on the same chassis, but the only differences here are obviously the cab ends. It is an old vintage model, so it's not up to today's standards. That's especially true of the painting, and some of the detail here is a bit lackluster. But it does have a lot of appeal in its own right as a vintage model, and it runs absolutely perfectly as well. Okay, it's noisy, you'd expect that, but it doesn't have any problems going along on the test track there. It's quite incredible that all the wheels are driven on this and it's got a central motor. Considering how old it is, that's quite innovative at the time, and it's certainly robust and has lasted all this time without any problems, it seems. So I think this is a great model. I'm really happy to get it. It adds another East German locomotive to my collection of VEB and GUTZOLD models. So I think it's a definite keeper. But what do you think of this old model? Let me know in the comments below. I'd love to know your thoughts. And if you liked this video, please give it a thumbs up. It really helps this channel grow. And in a moment, I'll put a link to that other video with the other V180s, and you can check those out as well. Thanks for watching this one though. Give it a thumbs up if you liked it, and I'll see you on the next video. See ya.